everybody. This is Sherman again, coming to you from Pentatonic Studios in Victoria, BC, Canada. Hope you're well. Just got my first shot. Feeling better today though, my arm. I won't be doing any windmill strums, but feeling pretty good. Good about it too, so gotta do something. So today we're at number 9. I think John Lennon said number 9. That was his favorite number. So I'll do a kind of a spot review. I got a few more things I'm excited to present to you. I hope you're enjoying these. If you're seeing them in sequence as we speak, we've covered a number of things. I won't restate it right now as we go, but there are a couple things that I really like to get on the board, as I usually do. And if you know some of it, then great. I'm happy for you. If it's new to you, then I think we'll get something established that we can build on. I want to restate the philosophy here. I will be showing you some licks. I've got some really nice licks to show you, and I'm not trying to bait you in any way because I'm not trying to charge for this at all. This is my gift to you. So coming from that perspective, I'm not holding anything back. So I want you to feel good about this whole process. And it is an adjustment for some of you because you have to rethink the way you see the fretboard. And once you do, it opens up a whole bunch of possibilities. And remember, one cardinal feature of this whole thing is, it's not just one approach. I'm drawing from many vantage points here. Scales are one component. Arpeggios, or arps as we call them, is one perspective. Pulling in the caged system, which I just presented last week. I presented the major chord series. Gives you another vantage point. These are references that you'll see, little things that'll say, pick me. In the heat of battle, excuse me, you might see some flicker of a chord shape that'll give you an anchor to move to the next thing. So again, we view chord progressions not just as a series of chords, random series of chords to blow over and play your hottest licks. You want those licks to be in there, but you want to have pressure points, or shall we say pivot points, target tones, that's a really good term, notes, destination tones that you're going to aim for that make your solos sound more in touch with the song instead of just using it as an excuse to throw a whole bunch of crazy, as Steve Miller used to say, serve up a mess of spaghetti. Okay, so let's try to make this thing sound like something. So tonight, to open, instead of doing a blues jam as I often do, I'm going to take something we've touched on, the Let It Be song. I'm going to be doing it in the key of C, so I'm going to deviate from the G thing for just a minute. Let's talk about this. So everything shifts. The major scale form for C is now 3 frets lower from the 8th fret, as many of you know, I'm sure. That would sound just a little bit rough to be leaning on that too much. And the 5th fret sounds pretty nice. So we have to spice it up a little bit, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. So I think I demonstrated last time. I'll get a little bit of rock sound on this. I'm going to replicate the solo that George did, roughly speaking, and just the first pass solo that he did on the recording. And then I'm going to break down my approach to it, and then we're going to add a few wrinkles to it to coordinate and incorporate some of the things that we've discussed to make sure that you get a good solo almost every time. Okay, so the goal of this is not to imitate somebody else, it's to show you how to draw on that knowledge and expand on it and create your own thing, because you got to live in your own time. And so what are the 3 words? You imitate, assimilate, and then innovate. Okay, if you can remember that. I think that's Clark Terry, the great jazz horn player. So we're imitating a little bit here, but we're going to innovate on that, assimilate that, drag that in, and then show you what you can do with it. So here goes. Do my best. Here's George. Boom. Okay, so that's just one pass. George was drawing on form 1 here. Obviously a double stop there, right? You can going into form 2. Nice little slide point there. If you folks are new with that, most of you seasoned vets, you know that that's a well-trodden road there, but it's a good one. So you slide up into there, you're into form 2 solidly. So and then he comes back. So he's playing it really close to his chest here. He's not doing anything too adventurous, but it's effective because it lifts the song. So again, think of your philosophy of what a solo is going to mean to a song, and if you can add, you can enhance or expand on the emotion that was brought into that. That's a good thing to do. Then he goes up into form 4, which is now at the 12th fret, right? So and all that stuff he's doing there. So that's a really nice area too. You can, I'll just turn my reverb down a little bit. So what's he doing there? He's playing it safely within the major pentatonic sphere for the key of C. Now, if you wanted to get outside a little bit, and you'd hear somebody like Slash or some of these other players do this, you could go up to good old form 1 in the 8th fret. You could use any of the forms, but I'm just going to make it easy for you. Just a little smidge, a little pinch of that sass that comes out of the minor. So you got form 1 at the 8th fret, obviously. You got form 5 right there in your camp, right? Now in our G blues that we've been focusing on using as our anchor point, that's way up here. So G major is 12th fret area, and then you got form 5 overlapping with that to get some sass. So you don't have to leave town if you're familiar enough with form 5. So there's a lot of there's a lot of cool stuff you can do there, and you know, vary the fingering a bit if you get a double stop or a bend, some sweeps in there, whatever you want. So I'm going to focus primarily on the good old form 1 for those of you who may not be as well versed in form 5. And I could also go back to form 4 here, form 4 minor, and get the same. So just depends on where you are in the moment. So I'm going to focus on just some little flicker. I'm not going to get too deep into that because I don't want to take away from the basic positive sounding of a progression here, which is C, G, if you remember, A minor, F, C, G, F, and C. Now, I'm going to approach that and just throw a little pinch of minor pentatonic in there, just to make it angry a little bit. But I'm going to stay around the home bass. Here I go. See what I can do. Oh, sorry. 2, 3. So I threw a little bit of sass in there, and you'll notice that I also did some other things which are pertinent to tying in with our cage thing. So I looked at the chords. You notice I didn't go down here once to this F. Even though that is the chord, I went to the F, the caged F, which starts with the C shape, right? So there you are. And you've got all sorts of cool stuff in there. Double stops you can play off those chords. If you can see that, I hope you can see it. Nice double stop there. Most of you heard that from the band doing that. I think they were in A or something. Take a load off Annie, right? So that kind of thing. So I put that in F. Jimmy did. You do. So that brings you to the C chord. There's your C. So a lot of that can play into there and be very nice stuff too. And of course G is never far away. And for A minor, you've got this obviously. So you've got arps on those things, and I'll discuss those in a second. So here's G. Could even be G7, but I think it's more of a straight G. And then A minor also, I could see it like this. Getting ahead of myself here, this is the caged A minor. So after that A minor comes this one. If you've never played it much, it's a great one. See the D minor shape in there? I hope you can see that, a little bar there. So that one I play a little arp on. So it's a really nice area. And then of course you got your G there. F. And C. So there's a whole bunch of stuff here in this area. And then of course your minor pentatonic stuff, form 4 back here. Minor pentatonic, form 1 at the 8th, so 3rd fret, 8th fret, respectively. So that's what I was doing in there, and of course throwing in some bends. Now we haven't talked much about bends, and I know most of you intermediate guys have been string bending fools, I'm sure. But some of the bends we'll be talking about when we get back into this thing, this major thing. I'll address that more when we get into a country rock segment that I'll do, covering sort of the Allman Brothers, Eagles kind of thing. But in short, any of the notes in our major pentatonic ones, the best bends in form 1, 3rd string, I use a finger to support that bend. So I won't talk about it too much tonight, but make sure you're supporting it. Don't expect, particularly if you're using, this is a 15. I use a 9 set, by the way, in case anybody's wondering. 9, 11, 15. I find a 16 just a little bit too much of a jump. So everybody's different in that, and then the rest of them just a standard set. So I use a backup finger, so if I'm bending this note, that's just about right for me to bend in tune without pulling the flesh away from the nail, which is not nice. Now the 2nd string, I'll either support it with 1 or sometimes 2 fingers, depending on what I'm doing. So pinky is the guy. I know a lot of you guys cheat on this, but try to examine during this time, examine your fingering choices. Another quote from Pat Martino: take any lick you know, any phrase you love, and try it with every fingering that you can imagine. So good advice. And in any moment in the heat of battle, grab it with the nearest finger, but don't do it unsupported and hurt yourself. No prizes for that. So no need to bend unsupported. Just practice doing that. Put at least 1 finger behind it. My advice. And the 1st string, same thing. Okay, and you can do them as drop bends. Very effective. Crying sounds. In form 2, major for C, best bend is on the 1st string. I think most of you guys have done this one. So 10th fret in this case. Or now for the 2nd string, you can bend it, but you have to overbend. We'll be talking about those later. So for now, I would confine myself to the 3 in form 1, the best bend in form 2, and if you go up to form 4, in this case, the 1st or 2nd string will work. So that's it. Don't bend the 3rd string, because that has to be an overbend. Okay, we'll get into those later. So you got 3 bends in form 1, 1 screaming nice bend in form 2, and 2 bends in form 4 for this application. Okay, so that's an example of how I use all those things to my advantage, some of the things we've covered, and a pinch, just a pinch of minor pentatonic to give it flavor, to give it a little bit of sass, which I think really sounds nice. So now the cage system, let's get back to that for a second. The second thing I wanted to touch on tonight is we touched on thinking of the word caged. So we went through major, C, the next C chord is an A, I cover the bar, so spelling cage, C, A, G, bit of a stretch. For a C chord, next one is an E, you can see it there, I'm hoping, and D. So I just spelled the word caged, but these are all C chords. Turn off the wrench, if I may. And so on, and it starts again with C with a bar there. So those are very important to be able to see, because you can make reference of it and locate it. Again, I respectfully disagree with anybody, online or off, who says you don't need this information. You need it, because the more reference you have, the more you can just freely express yourself. You'll see something in an unguarded moment. You'll just see a bit of a G chord there, and you'll have something to play, and this will save you more times than not. But if you're flying blind through these areas, I don't care what magical system you're going to use. I don't know how you can do it other than just by guessing. You guess enough times, you're going to get it right. Monkey with a typewriter, given enough years, could write Shakespeare. I don't know. I don't have that kind of time. I want to get a system going. So, seventh chords. This brings us back to our blues in G, which I really want to do. So, here's, let's start with the C's first. C7. Practical shapes that will serve you well, right? There are many of them. Get a dictionary out, chord dictionary. You'll see so many it makes your head spin. I'm only interested in the ones that really serve me well and can enhance this system that we got. So here's C7. Spelling the word caged, we need an A, so here's an A7. You could do it like that, but I'm going to use a more comfortable position. And then, barring that, we have to do what looks like a G7 chord, so I hope you can see it. I wouldn't sit around the house and just... I never do that, but I have used pieces of that. So again, we don't need the full chords, but we need to know where they are. Practice them, but in actual playing, you might just grab this and then add that. You know, so those are locators, right? We did G before, the G shape, now it's a G7 shape, which in this case is C7, so there you go. Now we're up to E, spelling the word caged, and then we're up to, that's a 7th without that ping, and then nice little baby D7 chord, which gives us our D. You can either do it without the bar or with. I think on my sheet I show it without, but you can certainly lay that down to do lots of tricks around those. And then back to C shape. Okay, so that's all your C's. Spend some time memorize them. Let's double back to G, because for D, all you got to do is move everybody up that we just did 2 frets. And that gives room for this, so let's do that first maybe. Here's D7. Here's the C7 up 2 frets. So now we start counting. That was D, so now caged. And here's your D7, the A shape. Here's your D7, the G shape. Here's your D7, the E shape. And here's your D7, the good old octave of that guy. Okay, so that covers you for the 4 and 5 chords of our blues in G. So this is really important. I've been wanting to get to this, working my way up here steadily, hopefully presenting this in a logical way that will make sense for you. So, get back to G. So, regular, good old country G. Here's our G, E, for caged. There's your E. Then you got your nice little D7 shape. I use that one a lot. Good one. I hope you know it. And then the C7 at the 10th fret, root. 8th fret, another root. And then we start our caged thing. Here's the A shape. And there's your So now I do everything by columns, if you recall. So we've got overlap major minor. Now we've got overlap, and including mixolydian. And now we've got overlap seventh chords. Not every chord needs to be a seventh. It could just be major sometimes. That's fine. But let's pretend that you have a blues that's really got a seventh on every chord, which gives it bite. Sometimes on this G chord, you know, I know a lot of you guys would use. You can make melodies out of that. So, but that's an added flat 7 scale interval. You've already got it in the chord. And you remember the tritones we talked about? In G, you got that one there. You're going to have tritones across the neck, and I'll try to point those out. So here's G, G7 right there, and there's your tritone for that. You got your G7 here at the 5th fret. There's a little baby tritone. That's nice. Practice finding them, because you can spice up your solos with those. Here's a G7 up here. Here's your tritone. Notice that I kept the same fingers for that when I took the other fingers away, because then I'll hit a root. That's tricky, isn't it? So if I were doing that in G, I'd refinger. Just wait till I start showing you chords. It's going to be a great time. I really like chords, and I'm also more of a fingerstyle player. So anybody who's viewing these videos will probably be thinking, why hasn't he put the pick down yet? I will. Just trying to build a bridge to rocker guys, blues guys, who favor this. But you'll notice that I do use some hybrid occasionally, when I'm doing tritones particularly, along with the bass. Okay, so you've got your G all the way up. I think I did them all. Oh, that one, okay, the 10th fret. And then you got this guy. Okay, so all those chords going across. So here's G7, C7, D7. Here's G7, C7, D7. So starting here, I'm going to call them by the shapes. So G7 with an E shape, bar E. C7 with a bar A shape. D7 with the C shape, C7 shape. Okay? Okay, and now we're going into G7, 5th fret with a D7 shape, C7 with a G7 shape, and then D7 with a A7 shape. Then we're going up here. I hope I'm not moving too fast for you. You can check the sheet. I'm looking at, by the way, the caged system. These will be posted at the end of these lessons, sooner or later. I promise you, I won't hold out on you. And the seventh shapes are right down here, if you can see that, and it's right across that row. And I gave you all this info, so there's a lot of stuff there. I hope you'll be able to see it. But anyway, we'll give you links. You can get any of this stuff. I want you to have it. Okay, so, and where did I leave off? Okay, G's and D7, and now G7 here with the C7 shape, C7 with the E shape, and then D7 with the awkward G7 shape. And now over here, last one we could do, you got G7, A shape, A7 shape, and your C7 that one, and then D7 there. And then it repeats from the cowboy shapes there. Okay, so now you've got your chords. We got that established, okay? That's a very important thing for our blues. So let's go back to key of G blues. So important. So I'm going to just sketch some chords across the neck so you know where they are. Okay, I'll start here. Moving to 3rd position. 5th position. 8th position. 10th. Still 10th for D. 10th for C. 8th for G. Turn around. So what purpose would that serve other than just showing that I know where the chords are? It just shows that in any moment when I'm on a given chord in the blues, I have a safe haven, a safe house, as it were, you know, so where I can go. And I can see that as an anchor. I also see the surrounding arp. So if I do so I can kind of cruise around there, and I have a reference point for that. So when I say to you, when we're on the 5 chord, D, if you're thinking of that one, you could also think of D major, and you can think of all these wonderful double stops. You can see those in the arp anyway. Sixth. And you slide that out, look where you are. You're into that D7 there. So that kind of stuff gives you references that a lot of players don't have. And I'm just trying to get you on the board with that and establish it. So when you see me playing these little bits of chords for accents, or the tritones as I presented, I don't expect you to be a master of those in 1 week unless you've already played them. So again, I don't know where you're at with that, but if you're new to that, throw those in when So you can get into that thing, listen to Duke Robillard, some of those guys, and Ronnie Earl, those people. They'll throw those little chirps in there, little chirpy thing. And that's like having a player behind you, accompanying you, just throwing in a little something, a little spice. Now the other thing I'm going to close on this segment number 9 is double stops. We talked a bit about them on the double stop page. For the Chuck Berry style, which most people learn when they're first learning guitar, everybody knows this one. If we're in G, that one. So you'll be bending into that quite a bit. Okay? Some players will grab, and that's a 4th, by the way. So you grab a 4th at the 6th fret. Sounds very modal sounding, doesn't it? You could slide it. Then some players will go to the next set of strings. That becomes a 3rd there. So you got 4ths. And if you want to end on a 3rd, you grab that one. Now this gets into an interesting thing, and I'm not going to finish this tonight, I'm just touching on this, but when you're doing these double stops, mixing 3rds and 4ths and such, when the chord changes, you have to salute that, you have to address that. So in this G thing, be aware of that when you're going. Notice how I flatten that out. Okay, clock on the wall says we're out of time, so thank you for listening. We'll continue this. I'll expand on that in the next lesson. Take care of yourself. Namaste.